The best music for hard-working people. Get the job done with Radio.
And now your feature presentation.
Hey there, rockers! Welcome to Bands, the Good, Bad, and the Ugly with Dr. Dog on the show where we get real about the ups and downs of band life. Your host, Dr. Dog, is locked and loaded. So let's do this.
Sing a song of the seamstress for your debut pants, or you will split them. Shake it, infant annoyance for the sake of some peace and quiet. Now hear the sirens. Take it, traveling salesman to the edge of that cliff. Who pushes who? Wind, alarm clock and heartache. Wait for the arrival of the cardigan and the lunatic. Emancipation of that harder stash of disposable income. It's a disease, a curse, a habit I cannot refrain from. Control is too far gone, I'm drowning in collectible clutter. You introduced me to one expensive hobby after another. hear a chorus of tyrants on the edge of their thrones. Don't like your manners! Slam a door in the chapel. The ministers, they sacred thoughts. They're not about you! Think about a pneumonia to avoid that bruise. New Jersey beaches! Mantra on the crowded jazz rehearsal. Who's parading? Who's spectating? Someone bring this back to an end! Pathetic waste of sailboats sits there rotting in the harbor. The weekly trips to your exceptional Parisian barber. It can be checkers, crossword sewing, birding, much too frugal. Another month of this and I'll be forced to ramen noodle. Collecting late fees on my credit card for recreation. Cut off from logic, it's a self-inflicted separation. Another week of this and I'm not likely to recover. You introduce me to one expensive hobby after another. One expensive hobby after another. One expensive hobby after another. One expensive hobby after another.
Dr. Dog here, welcoming you to Bands, the good, bad, and the ugly, bringing you the ins and outs, ups and downs of band life. So let's get to it, let's rock and roll.
You just heard Expensive Hobby by Norwegian Soft Kitten. My guests today are Glenn and Alan with Norwegian Soft Kitten. How are we doing today, guys?
Very well.
Doing well, thank you.
Great. Anything up too special?
No donuts this week or anything good like that. So no.
Man, that's a bummer. So tell us a little bit about yourselves and NSK.
Oh, you pointed at me as I pointed at you. Okay. Well, my name is Glenn. I play guitar for Norwegian Soft Kitten, sing some of the songs. And yeah, Alan and I met years and years ago. And we were making films together. We made feature films like To Die Is Hard and The Worst Movie Ever, some short films as well. And yeah, we got together as a band at one point where Alan and I were going to an Indian buffet. And I got in Alan's car and saw his drumsticks there. And I love telling the story. And I'm like, dude, did you play the drums? He's like, yeah, I play the drums, man. And I'm like, we need to form a band because I play the guitar. So that was pretty much the genesis of my musical career and Norwegian Soft Kitten.
Our first jam session was in my garage in Denver. We played Talking Heads, Psycho Killer, and we played
that was a good song.
Ohio Dreams, Glenn's original Ohio Dreams. That was, I think, the first NSK song that we actually practiced together.
Really?
Yeah.
So when did you guys meet? I mean, has it been 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? What?
It was November, December of 2006, wasn't it? Before we made the film Bad Movies, Good Showers, and Civil Engineers.
So you guys
sounds about right.
You guys have been friends and together for quite a while then.
Yeah, Alan at first was really intimidated by my machismo, and he mostly just sat there quietly. He was afraid to say anything, so I had to kind of break the ice with him. Eventually, Alan was not too overwhelmed by my personality.
And your phenomenal guitar playing, right, too?
Yes. I can put 5 chords together at this point, so...
Was it, you only need like 3, right? So you got 2 more on top of what you really need. So there you go.
I'm practically Jeff Beck at this point.
Hey, I was going to say that, I was definitely going to say that. So, all right, guys, let's get into some of these questions that listeners and the doctor wants to know about. So, do you feel like your lyrics are the most important aspect of your music?
Alan, I'll let you address that.
Well, I got to tell you, there are some songs that definitely begin with the lyrics, or begin with certain phrases that are rolling around in my mind that become lyrics. And there, I years ago I was really into bands Big Black and Shellac, Steve Albini's bands, and he mixes the vocals way down in the mix where you can hardly hear what's going on. And I always thought that was fine. The words didn't really matter to me. I was much more interested in the music. But even with the single that we're releasing soon, I find myself bringing the vocals up more in the mix, because it's like, no. If the song is essentially a punchline, which is not every NSK song by all means, I want the vocals to be heard. It's just a matter of like finding a way for them to fit in the mix just right. So, for some songs, I'd say, the lyrics are kind of what make the song, but everything has to be working together. Some songs, especially the ones that I come up with, some of the lyrics they're just words. It's just nonsense, It's just there to serve the music.
Huh. Well, you're right. I mean, everything it's like a puzzle. Everything has to be put together and fit together right, whether it's the lyrics or the music. I find that bands tend to bury themselves too much, the vocals, and I don't like that. I mean, I like to hear the vocals. So them standing out like that, I think is great. I think that's what you should do, because it's the beat and the music that gets people moving. But it's the lyrics that create the emotion and the memories as well. So, those words can be really powerful at times. And then other times, like you said, it could be just, the music itself. So that's great. That's great. So speaking of music, okay, we're going to go into Lord, Lord by Norwegian Soft Kitten.
Gotta believe, Lord, and put your best foot forward. Have faith in yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe in the Lord, Lord. When you're feeling down, Lord, say a prayer to yourself, Lord. You're really swell. You won't go to hell if you believe in the Lord, Lord. Life can be really tough, Lord, but you gotta persevere. Keep faith in yourself. All praise to yourself, because you're the Lord, Lord. Some peeps don't believe, Lord, that you are the Lord, Lord. Don't get upset, 'cause you can smite them. You can smite who you want, Lord. Hooray for today, Lord. It's the day you made. 3 cheers for yourself. You've done a nice job. Be proud of your work, Lord. Be proud of your work, Lord. 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 Proud of your work, Lord.
Nice song, guys. You guys are grinning. Why are you grinning so much?
Well, that's a song that started with the lyrics. I came up with a concept and I sent Glenn the first verse, I think, and he came up with the music and the rest of the song.
Yeah, and I remember Alan telling me he saw it more of as a darker song, and I turned it into this super happy, bouncy song like, geez, I'm Jesus and I'm having a rough day. What's going to cheer me up? And so Jesus is singing a hymn to himself. And Jesus finds great joy in realizing, hey, I can smite anyone I want to. And wouldn't all of us be happy if we had that superpower?
Oh, yes. Yes. I think I'd be smiting all the time. I don't know. So reflecting on your guys' journey so far, in your career, how's being in the band transformed and affected your lives, your career, your music?
I think it's mostly the chicks. I think that's been the biggest change. Other than that, for me, I mean, I was writing and playing songs for years before I was ever really in a band. My brother Brian and I did some stuff together, and Brian Burgetts, he has the Brian Burgetts band, and he's doing really well, plays lots of live gigs. He's from Tucson, Arizona. But Brian and I had formed two incarnations of a band. It was Please Respond for a while, then Fruit Bowl, and we did a couple songs together. We had a drummer, Steve Burkholder, who was with us at times. And I just been playing music for years, though, once I picked up a guitar in my early 20s. And sometimes I might go years at a time without playing because I was doing other stuff, making films, writing, screenplays and stories and things like that. I don't know. It's just seemed like part of my life for so long that it doesn't necessarily feel transformational. It's become a bigger part of my life the last 3 years as we've been releasing albums and getting a little notoriety, and that's a lot of fun. But I don't know. I'm mostly still kind of the same boring, sit around the house kind of guy, just dinking around with a guitar or a notebook.
Still very humble, I see. So, being in the a musician for that long, I can see what you mean by saying that. But I know there's something that sparked or changed, or if you're working more, working less, more time for yourself, your families, your friends. Everything changes once you start really recording and getting out there. And like you said, getting some notoriety. So nothing like that's changed for either one of you guys, or you don't see your life shifting in a different way. When you guys, you guys have been playing a long time, but it's just the last 3 to 5 years that your music has really started to take off and get out there?
Yeah, it's just in the last 3 years, like Glenn said, that we've actually been releasing music. I'd say for me, the changes are pretty much just internal. Before I may have had ideas about music that were sort of just floating around in my head, but I wasn't doing anything with them. With Norwegian Soft Kitten, those ideas have a structure and they have a purpose. Mm-hmm. They might, go in a certain direction. There's more motivation to take an idea that's rolling around in my head and sort of like mold it into something tangible and put it out there. That's really the only change, is just, one of kind of my thought process.
So it's your creativity has changed and opened up to where your ideas and where you want to go has changed, so you can actually make it a reality.
And to piggyback off what Alan just said, a bunch of our songs, Ohio Dreams, I wrote, close to 30 years ago, and Mom Went to the Store, and I would just play these songs for myself. I just walk around my apartment just playing them and singing them and having fun with them. And for me, it was just, especially like Mom Went to the Store and Baby Shake My Hand, that I'd been playing for, 15 years to myself. When Alan actually added the drums and bass and instrumentation to it, and I heard it for the first time, like, wow, this simple little song I've been dinking around with forever, it's like a real song.
It all came together. So that's cool.
Glenn, do you ever feel like that part in the Wayne's World movie where they hear their own theme song, but it's been recreated by like some corporate band, and they're listening to this theme song that's like totally produced, and they're like, "What? That's not us at all." Do you ever feel like that?
Never. No, I love what you end up doing with the songs. Yes, I have these like real sparse things. I mean, for my whole, for years and years, I'm playing these songs with just typically an electric guitar that's not even plugged in. So it has a very empty sound to it. It sounds good to me. I have fun playing it and singing it. But yes, then when Alan adds his magic to it, yes, it is so much better.
So, Alan, are you saying that you're Wayne and Glenn's Garth? Is that what you're trying to say? I think I caught that a little bit there, Glenn. Don't you? I think he snuck it in there on that comment.
Hey, I got no problem being Garth.
It's been too long since I've seen the movie to know what the implications are of choosing one character or the other. So I abstain from answering.
Okay, I'll take that one. So, guys, every band has its highs and lows and rock bottom moments. In the industry, getting into the industry, staying in the industry, producing their music, getting their music out there. So tell me about your highs and lows. And I don't know. I mean, it seems like you guys, I don't know if you have any rock bottom moments or not, but I know there's been highs and lows with you guys. So tell the doctor and the listeners about those.
Boy, when it comes to, go ahead, Alan.
Probably the high point for me is when I was at Glenn's house. We had just finished mixing our second album, and we went for a long drive to listen to the full album in my car uninterrupted. And, there's just moments during that listen when I got chills. I just felt that we had landed on something that really spoke to me, and that was I was so proud that we had created. That was definitely a high for me. And the low would just be the times when we're not making music because I haven't gotten around to working on the stuff that we've actually recorded. Not really a low, but a lull. And it's kind of like scratching at you in the back of your mind, work on me. And, for whatever reason, other things have taken over.
Yeah, Alan put it perfectly there. I don't see any lows, but there are lulls because Alan and I live 2,000 miles apart from each other. And when we have been able to get together to record, it's always just an absolute blast. So yeah, no actual lows. Maybe one of the high points for me is when we come to our last two recording sessions. We've done it at my house here in Indiana, so Alan has to drive for like 8 days from LA to get to my house. And so we set up, the whole house becomes a recording studio. But every night, Alan is a fantastic cook. So he makes a huge, massive, awesome dinner. And I always play rhythm guitar. And so the one night, we've been recording all day and stuff. And I thought, man, can I play electric guitar or lead guitar? Because sometimes I play lead stuff, but it's on my electric guitar that I almost never plug in. So it just sounds really tinny and stuff. And so I was like, well, let me hook you up here. And he puts on reverb, echo, 28 other distortion things or whatever. And I started like soloing, and it actually sounded all right. So Alan went into the kitchen, which is like 8 feet away because my house is tiny. And he's making dinner for like half an hour. And I just soloed the whole time. And parts of it sounded like crap, that's for sure. But other parts, like, wow, this sounds all right. And I kept hitting like bass notes and then going into the higher pitch strings and bass note and stuff. And so we ended up after like I think it was 34 minutes or something. You just recorded the whole thing. And we ended up calling it Synapse Death Knell. And I'm going to demand Alan turn it into a full 34-minute long guitar solo instrumental. And I was just so happy, like, wow, I can actually play a little lead guitar, do a little soloing, because I didn't know I could do it up till then.
I'll give the listeners a little sneak peek. The plan is maybe this is our next album. We have a song called White Jasmine and Mint Body Cream. That'll be the first song on the album. It'll be about 8 seconds long. And then followed by Synapse Death Knell, minimum 12 to 15 minute guitar solo.
There you go, Glenn. There's your fame, buddy.
But that'll be an interesting project, because it's essentially taking just what Glenn was coming up with in the moment and giving it some structure, adding other instrumentation to it, and like making it a song. I have no idea how that's going to work, but that's the idea.
And this is just one more example of how I'm constantly throwing steaming piles into Alan's lap and telling him, do something with this. So often I just give him, a 60-second demo of me playing some chords, singing some lyrics. Then we actually record that, okay, but he's got to do everything else. Okay, I'm done with the song at that point. Now he's got to put like 120 hours into figuring out what to do with the crap I just gave him. And thankfully he does do that, so thank you, Alan.
Well, and then after the album is done, Glenn spends 120,000 hours contacting people, promoting the new music, and so forth. So thank you, Glenn.
You're welcome.
That's a lot of, it takes a lot of time to do that, to promote and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing your music, But I wanted to ask you, Glenn, is Alan going to turn you in your lead solos into an Eddie Van Halen?
I don't know. I guess if he speeds it up about 8 times from how I was playing it. So.
I just had to ask that one because it's and it's good that when you find out that you can do something like you never thought you could before, and that's the cool thing about it. So we're going to get in, especially speaking of songs and playing and Glenn's phenomenal lead guitar solos. We're going to get into the next song by Norwegian Soft Kitten, which is Worthless Signature.
I'm sorry, but your signature is worthless. I'm sorry, but your signature, you know that it's worthless. Sign it again, make a move with your pen, move your hand across the line. Sign it again, pick up a pencil and pen, the signature will be mine. for a madrigal chorus line. The bread of singularity by design. Can't add up any higher within the sun. Can't pour libation cold when the day is done. Can't tickle any emptier pair of pants. Can't sabotage the remnants of this romance. Your calligraphic iniquity. Abetted by the shades of ubiquity. Surveying you, reviewing you, controlling you, waiting for you to. I'm sorry, but your signature is worthless. I'm sorry, but your signature, I mean, come on, it's just worthless. Sign it again, make a book with your pen, move your hand across the line. Sign it again, pick up a pencil and then the signature will be mine.
That is a good song, guys. It's a really good song. Yeah, your music's really good. It's so different, but it's really good. So
One of the fun tales with Worthless Signature is we recorded that in the mountains of Colorado in a cabin. And, Alan's like screaming lyrics at times in there. And I had gotten tired from recording and stuff. I went in to take a nap. I slept through him, all of his screaming lyrics. I never woke up once. And he's like, how did I not bother you? Like, I don't know. I was tired. I was taking a nap.
I totally forgot about that.
Where in the mountains in Colorado were you guys?
45 minutes, an hour west of Denver, I guess.
Well, west of Boulder, actually.
Like in
up near Netherland.
Netherland?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, there's some good recording studios up there. I live in Colorado, so there's some really good recording studios. So
yeah, there's a famous one that was there. Maybe it burned down 10 or 15 years ago, but there was a famous recording studio up in Netherland.
Yeah, it's well, thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. I just went right out of my head. I mean, I was getting ready to say the name and it's just gone. I'll think about it. I'll remember it probably after the interview, but
sure.
Caribou.
Huh.
It was Caribou Recording Studio. That's where a lot of the big mainstream artists came up and recorded, up in the mountains in Caribou Recording Studio. So, but any place up in the hills and the mountains in Colorado is a beautiful place. Very serene. Lets you really kind of stay away from everything and everybody and just concentrate on doing what you want to do and put out some good music. So that's cool.
It would have been serene if it wasn't for the infestation of bees that kept getting into the cabin that we had to keep catching and taking outside, which people can see some of those videos on our Norwegian Soft Kitten YouTube page. We recorded some of the horrors of the bee attacks.
Oh, man. So given that bee attack, what's some of the biggest misconceptions people have about being in a band and being an indie artist? I mean, it's not so much being in the band and being on the road and touring and all this other, but playing together in your garage or down in your basement's one thing, but when you get serious and you actually become a band, then people start thinking all these things are happening, or you're doing all these things, and all you're doing is busting your asses to make good music. And so what do you think the biggest misconceptions have about, hey, I'm in a band? What do you think people think about that?
From our perspective, since we don't play live, we're a studio band.
But you're a band, Glenn. I mean, you put out great music. So if I didn't know that, I wouldn't know you weren't touring. I wouldn't know you weren't on the road. And I don't think most listeners think that either. But what do you think they think? That's the biggest misconception. What do you think people think when you tell somebody you meet, I'm in this band and you can find our music here, here, and here, and we're played on here, here, and here. What do you think they're thinking in their mind as far as a misconception? Man, this guy's in a band, other than being Eddie Van Halen. What do you think they think about that, Glenn?
They think we're getting chicks all over the place. That's what I always think they're thinking. Because back when I was making films, I was producing and directing films. I had so many people say, so how many actresses did you get on the casting couch? I'm like, none. No women threw themselves at me. Do you see this body here? They're not throwing themselves at this body. And same thing with music. Oh, you're in a band? Okay. Don't get too close to me, though. You're kind of gross. And so that might be one of the misconceptions. Other than that, I don't know that people necessarily think we're raking in the cash. I mean, we have made like $3.50 off Spotify in our 3 years with the huge payouts they have.
Oh, man.
I don't know, Alan, anything?
You have you're much more of the face of the band in terms of interacting with people and reaching out to people. So I'm not sure I have a whole lot of insight into misconceptions of being in a band. All of my perceptions are around, writing and recording music. It's there's a lot of like layers to the music that when you're just listening to it casually, you might not think about, both in terms of the sound that you're creating and, the writing of the music and what it takes to put all that together. But as far as misconceptions around what it's like to be in a band, I guess my own misconception was, I can be in a band and then just like go about daily life. Like we were saying before, not really externally, not much about my life has changed. But when I think of the bands that I really admire and the bands that I follow, I remember finding out that one of my favorite musicians, his full-time regular day job was at Kinko's, the copy machine place. It was like, oh man, that's so surreal to think that this musician who's so incredible, absolute virtuoso, is spending his days, at the copy center.
So why do you think that is? I mean, is it because you guys are locked into the indie cage where you could only, they put a ceiling on you guys so you could only go so high? Or why do you think that is? I mean, that's talented, like you said, Alan. They're working at Kinko's. So Glenn, what were you going to say?
Yeah, in that regard, maybe almost the opposite to a certain extent. I'm a part-time college professor, and if my students find out I'm in a band, most of them, I think, just think it's me and like three dudes who are largely unemployed, just going to our garage and jamming out and stuff. But then if they actually look us up and see that we're getting played on hundreds of stations, and we've had a bunch of songs that have charted on different indie charts around the world, some of them come to class like, wow, your band's actually pretty good. I listen to some of your songs and you're getting played a lot. And I mean, we're getting played a lot compared to, I guess, some bands. I mean, we've been played on a couple hundred stations and all. Certainly we're not getting played like Taylor Swift is getting played. But in that regard, I see maybe a little extra interest or respect from some of my students when they do realize we do get played, around the world by various stations, and that's mildly impressive to them. It certainly doesn't change my life, though. I did have one student ask for my autograph. I will say that. I don't get anyone asking for my autograph, but I did get one student ask for my autograph one time. So that was kind of cool.
Well, that student's smart, because when you guys make it big, then they'll have an autograph, right? So that's not a bad thing. They're probably sitting there going, "Yeah, I got an autograph." But really, and just go. I'm going to go to Alan, and then I'm going to go back to you, Glenn. So, Alan, you're telling me that you meet people, right? You meet people that you don't know, correct?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. It doesn't often come up that I'm in a band.
Oh, so they don't ask you like, "What do you do?" or anything like that when you're meeting new people or anything.
I don't really advertise that part of it. I might mention that I like making music, but I don't mention anything about NSK. Yeah,
is that mean
I keep that part private?
Do you? That's. Is there a reason for that? Just curious.
Well, I think one of the reasons is I don't want to be perceived as someone who is urging someone to check out the music, like someone who's promoting themselves in a context where it's not appropriate. Or in a context where, I'm not trying to like meet people and earn fans of the band.
So you don't want to try to impress people by saying, "Hey, this is what I do, and this is who we are, and this is who I'm part of." You just let them be impressed by you. So that's you know what? No, I mean, that's good. I mean, think about what you just said. I mean, because most musicians will advertise, "This is what I do." And is there anything wrong with that? No, they should. No. I mean, you guys bust your butts to put out your music and to do this. And, I think then, the respect and the promotion part of it is due because you guys put so much into it, and I think people should be aware of it. And I do understand what you're saying, Alan. I do, and that's good. I mean, you're just a very humble person, and you can tell that you don't want to sit there and say, "Hey, I'm just some rock star," or "I'm some great musician," which you are. But you keep that very humble and keep it to yourself. So
yeah, I mean, in a social context where I'm just meeting someone randomly, that's not something, if it comes up organically, I might mention it. But otherwise, I'm more focused on just working on the music itself.
And just being Alan when you're talking to people.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
What I'm hearing is Alan wants me to have like 24 T-shirts printed up that say, "Hi, my name is Alan and I'm in Norwegian Soft Kitten." And he'll wear one every single day. That's what I'm hearing.
There you go. It's almost like putting your name tag on it. This is who I am. If you find me, please return me, without saying anything. So, but before we get into the next question real quick, I wanted to ask you though, Glenn. So when your students find out, they don't ask you anything. They don't say, "Oh, does this happen? Does that happen? Do you get to do this? Do you get to go there?" They don't ask. I mean, that would be a natural question. It's like, man, you're in a band, so especially when they find out how good you are, they don't ask, "Oh, do you guys do this or that, or do you have a lot of chicks, like you said, or what?" I mean,
No, my students have seen me. They never asked, "Do you get a lot of chicks?" They know, okay. But none of them have ever seemed overly impressed. I mean, some of them are curious, especially at one point. We've actually had our song "Eyes Closed" has been on a top 20 chart now for 11 months. And it reached number 1 10 months ago on that chart. And it's just hanging in there and hanging in there. And when it reached number 1, I was so excited. I mentioned it to the one class. And a couple of them were like, "Oh, well, it's kind of cool and stuff." But that's about as far as it goes with my students anyway. I think they're too busy clinging to Olivia Rodrigo and Taylor Swift and stuff like that.
Yeah, that name gets mentioned a lot of you guys. That's all I can say. So, but that's good though. That's good. So we know, and at least in the music industry and artists, that competition can be cutthroat, and especially in the music industry, and sometimes in cases with bands versus bands. So, what's the worst case, if any, with you guys? And I don't know if there is, but what's the worst case of backstabbing or sneaky shit that you guys have encountered towards yourselves?
Since I handle most of the promotion of the band, I haven't noticed anything like that. All the other bands and artists I've interacted with, going into chat rooms where, a station has a chat room and popping in there for a little while, on social media, it seems the bands are always supporting each other. They're retweeting and reposting each other's posts, commenting positively on it. Other bands, and DJs will, send us stuff like, "Well, hey, have you heard of this station or that station? Hey, here's a list of some stations, I contact you. You have these stations on your list." It really seems a very supportive community that, my perspective on it is there are 8 billion people on the planet, so there are plenty enough fans to go around for everyone. So, yeah, we don't need to backstab each other.
I tend to find that with the indie family that they all have that same type of perspective. They're not out to knock each other down or push each other out of the way. And I think most of them, a high percentage, are there to support each other. And that's good, because if you guys don't do that, no one else is going to do it, number one. And number two, it's all going to have benefit each one of you. If you guys support, band each other, and like and share your music and your posts, and I'm talking even if you don't know the people, but they're an indie artist, you need to do that. And this goes out to all indie artists, is that if we band together and support each other, like, share, and help each other out with our posts, with our music, think about how like a shot in the arm that can be for the indie music and the industry. And you know, they put a ceiling on the indie community. And you know, MM Radio and Dr. Dog, we're looking for a way to bust through that ceiling and figure out how to get you guys out there without being who, Glenn?
Taylor Swift?
There you go. There's that name again. Ding, ding. Okay, every time I hear that name, I'm gonna start doing that. Ding, ding. There it is. But you 100% true. That's it. Glenn, you hit the nail right on the head there. So speaking of that what's that name, Glenn?
Taylor Swift?
Ding, ding. We're going to go into this great song next by Norwegian Soft Kitten, Saturday Evening. That's a cool song. You know, I like your concept. I really do. I like how you put your music together. And,
you know, the beginning of Saturday Evening was an actual voicemail I left for Alan. And that was, 2010 or so? I left that with you. And then when you sent me the first edit or mix of the song and you put it in there, it just freaked me out. Like, where did that come from? I had forgotten about it, you know. And we have this running gag they used to have. I don't, maybe they still have them in magazines, the doer's profile. And Alan and I, neither of us drink, but we've had this running gag about doing a doer's profile. We'll have a glass of water and look all suave, you know, try to act all cool. And so, yeah, I said, hey, I'm totally naked sipping on a Dewar's. I was totally naked. Okay, I was not sipping on a Dewar's. But yes, I used to, I didn't have air conditioning in my apartment at that point. So it would get a little warm at times. So I spent most of the summer naked and walking around my apartment with my guitar trying to come up with songs.
Okay, that part of the story I have never heard before.
Wow.
There you go. See, you learn something new every day, don't you there, Alan, huh?
Yeah,
About your partner there, Glenn. You didn't stand in front of the window too long, Glenn. Did you playing your guitar with that, you know, just standing there?
You know, I was in a different unit. I was in the top part of a duplex at one point, and I just assumed it had these real tall windows. It went from like my knee to over my head. No air conditioning either in this one. And it was, you know, an upstairs unit. So it got so hot in the summertime. But the windows I figured would be reflective. You know, in the summer, the sun's out, no one would see. And so I just look around the neighborhood naked, playing the guitar, look around the neighborhood and stuff. Well, then like 10 years after I moved out of that apartment, I drove by and I looked up and someone was standing in the window and I could see them perfectly. See? There was no reflection or anything.
I knew
so I was
it.
like, oh my gosh. Did I have 58 different people at some point saw me standing naked in a window playing the guitar?
Oh, Glenn, they're going to call you the Flasher. You know, that's what they're going to be calling you from now on after this interview. There's Glenn the Flasher. Let's go by his place and see if he's standing in his window. You know, he'll be the naked cowboy there, Glenn.
I have air conditioning in my house, so
Oh,
I don't
do
have
you
to
now?
stand
Okay.
naked in front of windows anymore to stay a little bit cool.
Okay. Well, I know somebody out there has some video of Glenn doing that. So if you do, please send it to MM Radio because we'd like to put that out there, Glenn and the naked cowboy in the window. So we're going to go on then. What do you guys see that are unspoken challenges that bands face behind the scenes? And this is creating music. It can be promoting music. Playing the music. I mean, what do you see that the challenges there again? And it goes back that people don't realize, and we want to let the listeners know, like, listen, this isn't a gravy boat. When our music's being played on the radio and I'm promoting it and we're played on 100 different radio stations, and it's not like it just snap of my finger. They found us in a coffee shop like they did Marilyn Monroe, and now we're famous. There's a lot that challenges that go into becoming where you guys are today and going where you're gonna go. So, what would you say those unspoken challenges that a band faces, that either new bands starting off aren't aware of, or listeners definitely aren't aware of?
Well, I might say from the mixing and mastering perspective, if you haven't had a lot of experience recording and putting out music, one of the challenges for me is achieving the right sound in every possible context I can think of. So I'm listening to the final result on my laptop. I'm listening to it on different headphones. I listen to it in my car. I don't have fancy like studio monitors for mixing, but I try to make it sound as good as I can in every kind of environment. And that's very frustrating for me. And it's, I think it's not something that most people think about. Something is sounding great in my headphones. I go play it in my car and it sounds terrible. Back to the drawing board. Have to fix that. And it doesn't matter how long you've been working on a song. There's some vision that you have for how it's supposed to sound. And it's a struggle getting there. After everything's recorded, after all the instruments are in place, that's, a whole new phase of work begins trying to get it to sound right.
Yes.
From the marketing perspective, since I handled that for the band, with our first album that came out in 2020, Sunshine on Lava, I just I guess I'll just type in Google, independent radio stations and things like that, and college radio stations. And I came up with like 120 or something that way and was sending out to them. Well, as I got a little more savvy, I have a list now of nearly 1,000 stations. There are so many stations. And I learned too, I thought college radio was going to be the place for us because it used to be the place for independent artists. And yes, now it's not. Now it's Taylor Swift. It's Olivia Rodrigo. Yes. Ding, ding. And so that was a huge learning curve for me. It really took me, a full 2 years to kind of figure out what the heck I was doing with trying to market our songs.
Well, it's you're right. College radio used to be the outlet for the independent artist. It used to be they'd have radio stations, and I hear like on a lot of some of the FM stations maybe, and they have like what they call the underground music. But back in the day, that existed. Not on just certain stations. It existed constantly where independent artists would put it out, and that's how the new music and the new artists actually came out and were born, was from the underground music, because they weren't always playing
Taylor Swift.
Ding ding. Or artists like that just mainstream, the top 10. And it used to be great. I mean, there was radio stations that had like Saturday or Sunday nights, usually Sunday nights. They played the local artist or new artists coming out. Doesn't exist anymore. It's all commercial. It's all, top 100. They don't change. They don't rotate. It's just the same people, same songs.
Yeah.
And it's sad because the indie artist is sitting on just phenomenal music ready to get out. And they've slapped, the mainstream music industry has slapped a ceiling on you guys and saying, well, you're not going to go any higher than this, not going to go any farther than this. That's not going to be true. And there are bands, indie bands, that are breaking out that ceiling. And I think as hard as you guys work and what you put into it, you're going to be one of them. But you have to have that perseverance, which you do. And like you said, Glenn, you've got 1,000, different stations or so that are playing. You ask most artists, how many, stations do you know of or you reach out to? They're going to say 1,000? No. Okay. So you both are doing your jobs, which you have to do in a band. 50-50, Glenn, you're promoting, Alan, you're producing it in the end and making the end result. So that's the most important thing. So
I remember back in my college days, we were trading tapes. You'd hear, I had bands that I loved, and somebody's got a tape of some demo that they recorded. You get this degraded 12th generation copy of some cassette tape. But that was also, a way of discovering new things. I remember hearing around the same time, actually, in college, there's a Public Enemy album that has a voicemail on it as one of their tracks, with this guy talking about the democratization of music distribution. And at the time, when I heard this track, I was like, oh, they put this on their album to make fun of this guy. This guy is talking about how anybody's going to have access to music, and like a digital revolution for being able to produce and distribute music. It's like, this is ridiculous. What is this guy talking about? Of course, it took me years to understand that was totally prescient, that was, that person was way ahead of the time.
Yes.
As far as understanding where things were going to be headed. Now, why has like universal access to those tools and resources now turned into everything's just sort of homogenized and focused on the top 100, like you said? I have no idea. Somebody else needs to figure out how to tell that story.
Yeah, when you find that person, let me know, because I like to interview them, because I have no idea. I mean, it's totally baffling to me. It really is. I just all I know is a lot of injustice going on in the industry right now, and that's a sad one. That's a sad one.
I think people like what's familiar, no matter what you're into. It's nice to discover new things, but people are also more comfortable with what's familiar. So,
well, I agree to a point, but again, if we don't listen to, just like with everything in life, if you don't try different foods, if you don't try, different drinks, beverages, if you don't listen to different music, if you don't maybe different dances, if you like to dance, if you don't, try them or explore those different avenues, then it's like, all they eat is peanut butter sandwiches. That's it. I don't eat anything else. That's all. You've got to expand your taste, and I think that's what the indie artist is doing. Is they're expanding, because if you listen to a lot of the indie artists, you guys are individuals. You're not. It's not like you all sound the same. It's not like you all are going in the same direction, trying to produce the same sound of music. You guys are always like, this is our music. We're not trying to follow anybody else. We're not trying to fit in with anybody else. We're not trying to fit in with what the listeners or society is listening to right now. We're staying true to our music. We're producing what we like and making it the best that we can make it. And, a lot of bands sell out and become commercialized, where it's like, oh, this is what people are listening to. We need to write songs like that. And then in a year, it'll change. Oh, now we got to write songs like this. And so.
Well, what I've noticed is I've heard quite a bit of top 40 the last few years, because I have twin nieces who are 18 years old And so they're always listening pretty much top 40. And what I've noticed is most of it's just a beat. Just get a beat going and just keep repeating those same 4 to 8 seconds over and over for 3.5 minutes, and you got a song. And so people who are used to that music, if the first song they hear from Norwegian Soft Kitten is Nail Bait, where there are like 14 90-degree turns in the song, they're going to be like, what the heck is this crap? What? But yeah, they're just not used to that. So it's for a band like us and many other indie bands, it's going to be tough appealing to more than a particular niche demographic.
Yeah. Alan, do you have anything to say about that?
I'm just recalling Tori Amos, that song "Caught a Light Sneeze," where she switches from harpsichord to piano. I don't know if Tori Amos could make it today. I don't know if she would be, she would have had the same popularity, because her music is just incredible. It's so adventurous. Yeah, I don't really have any other thoughts.
Well, no, it's sad that, like you said, some of the music that was just phenomenal, because of ways society is looking at music nowadays. I agree. I don't know, would she make it or not? Would some of the other artists that made it as big as they did, would they make it nowadays? Would people accept their music? I don't know. That's a question that they know themselves, because they see if their music is selling or playing or where it's going. And, ultimately you want to create something that's timeless. And like you said, Glenn, you wrote a song like 20, 30 years ago. Maybe it wasn't put out, but it's a 20-year-old song that now is people are paying attention to. And you're saying, well, man, I wrote that 20 years ago, dude. That's a different mindset than it is today. You know what I mean? And your song has to be a different mindset song as far as the lyrics or whatever 20 years ago than it would be today. But yet that song still remains out there. And that's a testament to you and both you guys for your skills and your ability to put out good music. So
but I think ultimately Alan and I are making the kinds of songs we want to hear. And yeah, I'm always a little embarrassed to admit it, but I listen to Norwegian Soft Kitten all the time. It's my favorite music. And I certainly listen to other music, but I always come back to NSK because we're making the songs I want to hear.
I'm hoping that most bands do that, listen to their music a lot, because you put a lot into it. And it reflects a lot of both of you guys as far as your inner and your hearts and your intelligence and everything else. I'd be listening to it all the time as well. So speaking of listening, we're going to go into the next song from Norwegian Soft Kittens, which is Your Departing Anesthetic.
Just before you go, one more thing. Give me your hand. Open your hand. Take it, I insist. That's your departing anesthetic. Off to bed now. An exodus of feeling from your body. First the head, with the fingertips soon to follow. How pleasant to finally once again be hollow.
yourself. Just before you go, I think you should know what's inside of you. I assure you, it was entirely my error. But we both can see now that you have crossed a certain threshold. An exodus of numbness from your body. First the head, with the fingertips in the hollow. Every nerve awoken from its eternal sleep. That's your departing anesthetic.
What got you guys to write that one?
That was a response to a script that Glenn had written. He had written a story about someone who's essentially messing with the medication of their roommate, was it? Feeding them placebos. And I just came up with the idea of a placebo addiction. And sort of came up with the lyrics in response. Actually, I know how that song came about. Okay, so I had come up with a song called Seasons of Retribution, where there's sort of a storyline to it, and then the choruses follow this, the same kind of pattern over and over. And I had just, in my head, I was coming up with so many new words for the Seasons of Retribution. I couldn't get that chorus melody out of my head. Just every thought that I had was in that melody. And so I was finally, consciously, I was like, all right, I have to actively create something in my mind that is completely different to get this song out of my head. And so I came up with Your Departing Anesthetic, where, the melody just follows a very different path. Mm-hmm. And I think it does repeat at some point, but it has a lot more variation to it. So yeah, those two things kind of combine to create that song.
Yeah, and the script Alan's referencing, we didn't work on that film together, but it's a psychological thriller called Evil Intent. That, to give it a plug, people can watch it on the 24-hour movie channel, which is a Roku channel, so people can watch it for free on the 24-hour movie channel. Stars Libby Baker, Giovanna Leah, Andrea Rabel, some very talented actors.
What was that name again, Glenn?
Evil Intent.
Hear that, listeners? Evil Intent. Check it out. That's a prescription the doctor's giving you. Check it out. So, guys, any advice to the beginning artists and artists that have begun the journey through the indie maze, and the guys that are looking to get into the maze, the do's, the don'ts, anything that you could give them that you've learned and you're saying, this is probably the best advice that we've learned so far to give to a new artist? What would that be?
Stay in school as long as you can if your parents will foot the bill. Okay, that's what you should do. Move into the basement if you have to. Wait till you're like 36 before you move out. So I would suggest that first. And I would also suggest make the music you want. Don't think, you have to fit into what's popular today, because what's popular today isn't going to be popular in a few years when you might be starting to gain traction as a recording artist. And, let inspiration come from wherever. We've talked before about, Go to Work for Me, Gravity, one of our songs, where I'm watching the shampoo drip slowly from the overturned bottle, trying to get those last few drops, the shampoo, and me singing, Go to Work for Me, Gravity. Let inspiration come from anywhere and make the music you want to make, not what you think people want to hear.
That's great advice. Alan, what do you say?
I would just add to that, limitations can be a very powerful creative tool. So work with what you have and push yourself to create within the limitations that you have.
That's great advice too. Listeners, I hope you really paid attention to Glenn and Alan on those tips and advice they just gave you, because they're great tips and advice. So where can we find your music, guys?
We're on all the major streaming services: Spotify, Deezer, iTunes, Apple Music, Bandcamp, certainly YouTube. You can listen to us. Yeah, there's so many streaming services. I Googled it one time, and I think I found 30 plus different streaming services around the world that our music is on.
That's great. Any certain websites or email addresses where the fans and listeners can either contact you or check out more about you guys versus just listening to your songs?
We typically direct people to the Bandcamp page for us. We got a little bio there and all for a little extra info. We also there are 2 YouTube pages or channels for Norwegian Soft Kitten. The one is just our songs themselves. The other are just bizarre videos we've put together over the years, like the bees, being attacked by the bees and dealing with that. Some of our recording processes, really ridiculous, like 45-second long videos, some mini acoustic concerts. So they can check us out there. They can email us at norwegiansoftkitten@gmail.com. We keep it really simple.
There we go, listeners. For people to get in touch with us. Yeah, no, it's the simpler the better. It is. And so you heard that, listeners. Make sure that you check them out. So we're going to go into the last song today from Norwegian Soft Kitten, which is Nail Bait.
Nail bait till you turn 33, then I'll nail you. You're gonna like it when I pound you. You'll say you don't like it, but that's a lie. You're gonna take it and scream with pain, but you won't try to stop it 'cause you're nail bait. I watch you strut in your robe, showing it all off. shape of your sweet little dirty bird. And set into motion the prophecy of the word. On the eve of your mailing, heaven brings a new mailing.
Nail bait. Later tonight, on your sweet little 33rd, when the lights are low, I'll caress those parts of you you so love me to touch. I feel you yield in my hands, my wet, sticky hands. I'll lay you down and whip out my hammer. You'll feel my breath on your neck. I'll slide in. To nail you. Daddy can't help you when I nail you. I'm a somebody nail you. You like it that way, you like it hard and fast. Drilling into you, you're a nail bait. You're gonna love it 'cause you're nail bait. 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 Nail bait.
And I know from the last time you guys because you guys were grinning from ear to ear on this song last time. It was like you guys are like smiling from ear to ear. So tell me about what's got you guys grinning so much on this song.
Well, this was another concept that I came up with, and I didn't even send words to Glenn. I just sent a song title and an overall concept, and he wrote the music and the lyrics. I wrote like the interlude part in the middle and some of the outro music. So it's one of those songs that has more of both of us kind of equally in it. But when we first came up with the song, we thought, oh, we're never going to put this out. This is way too racy or
way too out there, right?
Yeah, but that was back in 2012 when we recorded it. By the time we actually put out the album, neither of us cared. We're like, well, obviously this is going on the album. We don't have the same hangups that we did. It's just one of those ways in which maybe the music stays the same, but you as a person changes over time and your relationship to the music changes over time. So yeah, that's I think for both of us, that's one of our favorites.
And with all the chat rooms I've gone into, over the last year plus when our songs are getting played, the only time I've ever seen someone type something in that was at all derogatory, because everyone's always so supportive there, was when a station played Nail Bait, and one of the other bands was very offended by it, I will say.
Oh, really?
And when that comment popped up, I just started laughing because it is an offensive song.
Well, you guys knew it. You put it out, and you know what? That's the way it is. And sometimes that's our music, whether it's offensive or not. It's our music, and we love it. And it's definitely you can see that you guys enjoy what you do, that you put out great music, that you are examples to the beginning indie artists out there. And, the new listeners, the new bands, the new artists that are out there listening, really listen to these interviews that we do, because, Glenn and Alan have given you guys a lot to think about. And you can see that each band that we interview is different. They all give you the insight. And, you know, the most important thing Doctor has learned from these so far is that everybody stays true to their music. And it gets to a point, it's like, I don't care anymore. Just like you said, I don't care anymore. I don't care if, you know, we put it out, we love it, we think it's great. That's all that matters, guys. There's going to be people that love it and people that don't. Plain and simple. And you can't please everybody, and you can't always be looking into the crystal ball to say, what song should I write? What kind of music should we go that's going to make, you know, everybody love us or everybody listen to us? If you stay true to your music itself will do that. So,
yeah, and to build on that, with our first album, Sunshine on Lava, when I was clueless how to market things, like 12 or 14 radio stations had played us, you know, after a year of that being released. And I thought, oh, I was all excited. Okay, we got some stations that played us. But as I figured things out, you know, now we've been played by hundreds of stations, but I don't like Sunshine on Lava any less than our second album, On Loan from the Universe. I still loved it, even though almost no one was hearing it. And, you know, going back to, we make music we want to hear. And yeah, just keep making the music you like.
well, I know it's great music because Alan just said that when he puts it together, he starts mixing it, producing it. It sounds great in my headphones in my car. It sounds like shit, you know. So I go back and retweak it. So you guys pay a lot of attention to making sure this is exactly how it should sound, no matter where I'm listening to. And that was impressive, Alan, that you said that, because it's like most will listen to, you know, when they do the mixing and mastering, what are they using? Headphones. So, you know, and then it's like, oh, it sounds great. But then you get into your car and you're going, well, wait a minute, you know, not the average listener has a studio and has all this equipment and these phones. You know, they're going to be listening to it through their car like I am. And it sounds like shit right now. So I'm going to go back and change it. You know, that shows again, guys. And again, bands, listeners, that's dedication. Where, hey, it sounded great. And now I'm changing it because it sounds like shit in the car. Who does that?
I used to have fancy studio headphones that I would use for mixing. And then I listened to them on this, which is what most people listen to, just my AirPods. And it didn't sound right at all. Listen to it in my car, it didn't sound right at all. So now I mix using these AirPods. And I know some people would balk at that. It's not professional equipment. But to me, if it's got to sound right here first before, you know, it doesn't matter that on like perfect speakers, it sounds good, because if I listen to it in other places and it doesn't sound good, then I didn't hit it.
Well, who owns perfect speakers and you know, studio grade headphones? They don't. And you know, again, guys, listen to what he just said, because that's the smartest thing I've heard yet as far as recording and mixing. Is you listen to the music you're mixing with the earphones or the speakers the average listener would be using, because that's what it's going to sound like. And if you mix it on expensive studio headphones, it's going to sound great, but it's not going to be the same as earbuds or in your car. So, Alan, that's a genius way to look at it. And then who gives a shit about if anybody balks about it? If it works. I mean, you just probably gave a lot of engineers the idea. It's like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. I didn't think about that. I didn't.
Well, at least for me, I don't have quite the extensive experience that would allow me to predict how it might sound in other environments. But I think it's very easy to get caught up in the sort of like non-creative aspects. So I have to have the right microphone. I have to have, you know, this tool or that. I have to have the right plugins. You know, all this stuff is going to make me sound better. At the end of the day, no, not really. Glenn sent me a recording from his phone the other day of a guitar part. And I said to myself, hey, actually, that sounds pretty good. Maybe we could record like that someday. Like, you know, I'm taking that raw sound and piping it through so much stuff. It might not matter that wasn't fed directly into the machine and, has the highest sound quality and all that. It just might not matter. So I think it's so easy to get caught up in, especially when there's money to be spent. People have the perception that if I spend a certain amount of money, that's going to automatically mean that my music is that much better.
No, not necessarily.
Opposite could be the case. You end up foisting the responsibility of creating your music onto this thing that you've bought, and then something else comes out and it's more expensive and it's better. So you buy that thing instead. I mean, I did that for a long time. So yeah, cheap headphones.
No, if you think about what you just said, though, Alan, you're doing things that they did back in the day when recording first came out. They would try new things. They would try, let's put a bucket over this, or let's try this, or let's try using that. And that's how recording music has evolved, is because people just didn't sit there and say, well, let's just use this. Okay. They always thought of inventive ways to make it better or to do it different. And nowadays, the indie artist has to look at it. How can I do it the least expensive, but make it sound the best I can sound? Because you can run things through every type of processor and EQ and effects unit you want. But I think it needs to be more, like I said, I mean, I don't know. Shit, Alan, you just blew my mind. Is my hat still on my head? Because I think it just blew off. No, I mean, the way that you look at things and you record and you take the process you take is phenomenal. And the way you guys work together, Glenn sent me something on his phone, and but you had the intelligence and the creativity to say, man, this sounded good. Maybe we could record a song this way. See, most people are going to look at that. They're going to say, yeah, dude, it might sound good when I hear it or on a better speaker, but on my phone. But see, you've taken it to another level, Alan. So
that's just working within the limitations. Like I was saying before, we have this 2,000 mile distance between us. We have a limited amount of recording equipment. Let's use what we have.
There you go, guys.
One of my great joys ever in being part of Norwegian Soft Kitten was when Alan was getting near the end of the mix of our first album, Sunshine on Lava. And my favorite song by us might be Expensive Hobby. And it's a song Alan wrote and he sings. And there's a little 2-word stretch where he's talking about shaking a baby to quiet it down. And he says, for the sake of some peace and quiet. And then the song keeps going. And I said, Alan, I think you should say and quiet with like a little bit of a British accent, like and quiet. And so he had something up his sleeve I wasn't aware of. He's like, well, make a little audio recording so I can hear what you're talking about. So at the time, I had like a 6 or 7-year-old Android phone that I'd gotten like free when I signed up. It was about the cheapest phone you could possibly have. And I recorded and quiet into it. And then Alan put that into the song, and you would never know it was recorded on a cheap old Android phone. But that brought me such great joy that I got to sing those 2 words, an expensive hobby. So thanks, Alan.
Well, there you guys go. You learned a lesson that it doesn't take thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of recording equipment to make it sound great. And these guys have just given you multiple ideas on how to try doing your recording of your music. So guys, it's been a pleasure. And Doctor wants to thank Glenn and Alan of Norwegian Soft Kittens for joining him today. It's been a great time, and I've learned a lot, and I'm hoping my listeners have learned a lot too. Also want to thanks to Dogbone Studio, MM Radio, and Magpie Sally. Gentlemen, anything last words you want to say?
Just you're welcome, and thank you so much for having us on.
Thank you guys for being on with the Doctor. It's been a pleasure. You guys keep on rocking. Listeners, keep rocking. Dr. Dog is out. Take care now.
Bands, the good, bad, and the ugly with Dr. Dog. On MM, the show where we get real about the ups and downs of band life.
To infinity and tastiness with MM Radio.